All right, what's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about the balancing patch that was announced just a couple days ago. I assume everybody's had a chance to look over it, so I'm thinking I'll just kind of give my thoughts on, specifically how it will affect or it might affect RTA, and if we dig into a little bit of PVE as well, that's okay. Pretty, underwhelming in terms of massive changes to the game balancing patch for PvP. I'm not sure exactly why or what that means. Maybe it means that they feel pretty comfortable with the state of the balance. I don't know. That seems not crazy far fetched, but there are definitely some things that are a little bit outside of what you would assume are okay with the development team. So let's go and take a look, and we'll see kind of how we think. The Bard King nerf is silly. I don't know what happened to make someone someone feel so strongly. I've never seen this unit used really at all. But apparently somebody saw something that was not okay, and they did not care for it. So it's getting a nerf. And 3 too is also weird. Like, one more than a violent proc is its limit, and then you see things proc 2 and 3 times in guild content all the time, and that's the only thing this unit does is proc a bunch. So it's weird that it would be limited to things that, I don't know. Maybe they're saying it procs and then it frenzies 3 times and then it procs, and I don't know. There's some sort of issue, but anyway. Horus, I don't really see this making much difference with the Horus. I mean, healing's always good, but nothing too extreme. The Coco buff is interesting. The increased bar every time you get hit with a sphere helps her turn cycle a little bit more. Maybe makes it so you don't get all your spheres eaten up turn by turn by turn. Let you hit at least 4. I kind of like it. I really want to use Coco. I might be incorrect in this, but I feel like it's got potential in a bruisery kind of build, and especially when the attack starts going up at the end of the timer in RTA. I don't know. It almost makes me want to devil her, but I don't know that she'll fit into any of my teams. So nice little buff there. The Mage Light, I don't really see much of an issue there. We won't see many of those. There's just not a lot of them that exist. The Mage Fire and Dark are both pretty interesting. No longer is it, HP recovery. It's now Provoke, which I think is better. And we'll look at these changes together. The Fire one, the skill 4, now going to remove all beneficial effects instead of remove 1. That is a strip without a cooldown because it's just like Riley's skill 4. So having that on both the Fire and the Dark is pretty interesting. And now Fire at least has 2 strips, 2 AoE strips. One comes with a Provoke, and all of them come with dots, which is pretty nice. I think this feels like a little bit of a Riley nerf because it's pretty anti-Riley here, right? Like the Provoke eliminates Riley's unlimited healing. The double strip, prevents all the double buffs that Riley's putting up. So this feels like a Riley counter. And then the dots make it harder for Riley's little baby cleanse to cleanse. You're going to be dotting quite a bit. You're stripping, you're dotting. So I feel like this is a Riley nerf and might see some play in RTA as an anti-Riley unit, because there's quite a bit of Riley out there. And it does have the heal on the skill 1. So there's some sustain. I kind of like what this unit brings to the table now. I'm thinking about deviling it and giving it a try, but I don't know. I'm not quite there yet. I don't have a ton of trouble with Riley as it is, and I have to be very careful when I'm building my counters that I actually select units I'm going to use. I have an issue where sometimes I don't do that. But nice little tweak, and kind of looking at some of those units where they're like, I don't know. So I like that quite a bit. That's a pretty nice little buff, little baby buff, pretty nice. Okay, so the Chimeras I don't really see as too impactful. I know we're not quite down there yet, but always land a crit when they're under inability. Kind of a win more. If they're already under inability, you're in good shape. And what are you going to not build one on crit? I just don't see it. Maybe like Sean makes Sean a little more usable, because Sean can be built on speed now and crit, But what other ones are you going to assume you're going to put them under inability and then not build on crit? I don't know. You got to build on crit damage anyway if you're going to take advantage of this. So I don't know. I don't really see it. Light Bison, they fixed what is not its problem. The Wind Bison's problem is, in my mind, base speed, and you're going to take Bastet because it has a little bit better base speed, or if you want a ton of base speed, you're going to take something else entirely. So the Bison does different stuff, and it's definitely better, but I don't think it's good enough to replace what is already better than it. The Ken, I like the buff quite a bit. I don't know that it's enough to make it super impactful, but definitely in guild content. Remove a beneficial effect on each hit on the skill 3. and then it has the remove on the skill 2, which is less reliable than it used to be. But now, you've got double strip, which again, just kind of like the fire totem. They're heavily emphasizing double strip this patch. Maybe it's anti-Riley. I don't know. It's nice little buffs. It's going to be helpful in the overall scheme of things, so I like that quite a bit. The Fire Hell Lady, I don't think matters at all. It didn't see play, and this is not going to make it see play in RTA. The Wind Demon, I like this buff a lot. Creates a shield equivalent to 15% of your max HP for 2 turns after attacking on your turn. So you have a permanent shield just for you, which is great because if you are allowed this unit through, you're fighting Riley, you're fighting Nana, and you let the Nana through, right? And they let it through, and they're hoping they can, deal with it. And this makes it much harder to deal with. If you've got 30k HP, suddenly you've got, plus additional 4k, which is a lot. And most Nana teams, they either, anti-Nana teams, I guess, they either CC you or they try to blow through the Nana a couple times. Same thing with the Nana. They either try to endlessly kind of CC you, usually with a tanky sort of a bruiser build, like with Carnal, stuff like that, or they try to single target nuke you, which is what I like to do. And I think this change, giving the Wind Demon more HP, is very strong. He already had about a 50% win rate, and now it's going to go up because he's going to have, no matter how much damage you do to him, he's healing himself, by 3 plus K HP. I think 3k at a minimum. If you build him tankier as a bruiser, quite a bit more. So I like this as a little baby Nana buff. I know a lot of people are not pleased that there's no Nana or Oliver buff, but I think there's some changes that are looking at those units specifically, and they're incrementally trying to scale those units back. And I think the Wind Demon is one of those things for Nana specifically. It already was decent, and now I think it's going to be even better. It maybe makes it a must ban for Nana, which is only fair because Nana is must ban for so many comps. So it's nice to give because the problem with Nana, one of the major problems is you can first pick it and you're not really punished. There's a lot of units where if you first pick, you're punished. Nana is really not first pick punished because it pivots, it works with everything. This at least lets the player facing the Nana reserve their demon for a 5th pick because the Nana player is never going to pick the demon. So you have a lot of time to scope out their comp and then think if you like the demon as the final pick. So I like that quite a bit. Now, I think a lot of people would have been more pleased with a straight up Nana nerf, but I like the philosophy of we're going to nerf via other monsters that people can choose, because I think that's healthy for the game. It makes people's, choices matter. It keeps things that were trash and became strong, it keeps them relevant. You don't, at least I don't think, you don't want to get in the habit of making something strong and nerfing into the ground, and making something strong and nerfing into the ground, because if they do that over and over and over, summoning and purchasing summons becomes not very appealing because you have no idea what's going to be good. And if you go after a monster that's hot, it might get nerfed to the ground, and suddenly you wasted all your time and resources. You lose trust in the company, and so I don't know. I like this way of nerfing better than straight up just nerfing. So hopefully that'll bring Nana back into line a little bit. If not, then they'll have to take additional measures, maybe additional monsters. But I think it's a nice little baby approach to the problem. And since they're doing bounces more often, I feel like you're going to see more of this sort of sideways nerfs through other monsters than just straight up nerfs, because they have time to evaluate. In 2 months, if they look at it like, wow, nothing has changed, then what are you going to do? And I think, too, this encourages people to play differently and try to solve their problems through their pick ban. If people are refusing to pick counters that are given to you by Comp2us, that's not Comp2us's fault. That's your fault. If you have the counter and you're like, I don't want to pick that, it's like, well, then you're choosing not to lose. It's kind of like people forcing a specific monster. They're like, I'm going to play Molong every time. And then if you get countered all the time, you're like, I'm going to play Molong every time. They can give you tools. If you refuse to use those tools, that's on you. So hopefully this will be one of those tools that, against Nana specifically, its win rate goes up. It needs to have a pretty good win rate against Nana for it to be effective. Like Antares. Antares was a perfect example on how to deal with Diana. Diana users fear Antares. We need Nana users to fear the demon for it to be an effective nerf. So hopefully that'll occur. All right, moving on. Lightning Emperor, very nice buff. Makes the Bulwark harder to counter, but it's also a nice, fair buff. Bulwarks cannot be made completely useless by not bringing any buffers, which is kind of on the Bulwark player's fault anyway. But, you know, you can get up to 3 stacks even if you mess up and you have no buffers. You can't lock out a Bulwark by doing nothing. 3 stacks is not enough to significantly affect the match, but it can affect the match a little bit. So that's a nice little buff. I like that quite a bit. The Valkyria buffs are totally inconsequential, including the Cambi buff. So we'll move on. The Polar Queen buff is just for PvE, as far as I can tell. For those like 4 people that want to bring it to PvP, there's probably better picks in that place. But they're going to just do more damage now as they troll you by picking the Fire Polar Queen. All right, Archangel, you know, great buff. Needed to be there in the first place. Will it make a big difference? No, it's a 1-turn defense break, but now at least it's something. So I like that a lot. The Fire Monkey, I mean, the HP recovery, whatever, but the speed buff is excellent. Because a lot of times you get controlled via Genny Hathor or whatever with your Fire Monkey, and it never gets a turn because you're fully controlled. Now, at least, it'll be booking it. It already has a great base speed. If you build it in the 250 range, suddenly you're in the 300 range, and even with a speed lead, if they don't fully control you, you're slowly gaining turns on whatever's trying to control you. So that's a nice, again, kind of a buff to the control meta, especially something like Chung Pung. Maybe it'll be enough, maybe not. You know, you can't lock it down. You can't outspeed it over the long run. So they're, again, addressing some issues with maybe AoE control that now has a solution that can be used if you decide to build it. So worth a look. We'll see what its win rate turns out. Maybe it's good enough, maybe it's not, but it's definitely better than resist, I'll tell you that much. You know how much that resist helps you against Chung Pung? 0. There is nothing that resist does nothing against a Chung Pung, because every single Chung Pung user should be building accuracy. So that's wasted stats. Attack is not wasted, or speed is not wasted stats. So very nice little buff there. Assassin don't care. Fire Robo. Okay, this is one I'm interested in seeing how it works. So Fire Robo, when the enemy gets an additional turn, all your skills now activate at 100% is what that means. So the skill 1, I believe it's a stun. And the skill 2, which is a bar. Now it's a bar reduce, right? We can see it here. Robo Fire absorbs an enemy attack bar by 10% each. So it's a 3-hit absorb that now absorbs at 100%. And I believe it's a strip as well. I'd have to double check. But these two in concert should make the Fire Robo at least an option against things like Oliver and stuff like that. The only issue there is that my guess is that Oliver is not as nerfed as heavily as one would hope from this, because a lot of what he does is absorbing attack bar, and it's not an additional turn. Only when he procs will this Robo get the boost in attack bar and then these effects added. So, bit of an issue. He does proc a lot because he gets so many turns that it seems like over each cycle round he gets 1 proc in there and he just keeps going. So I don't know. I kind of see this Robo as an Oliver, the Fire Robo as an Oliver nerf, in a similar way that I think the Wind Demon is a Nana nerf. It is something that I'm going to build and going to test. It might be total trash, but it's the right element. It cuts on procs, and it disturbs bars. It absorbs bars. It lets you take a turn. It doesn't have anything that matters on getting cooldown, really. And you know, I think it has potential. So I'm going to give it a try. If it's an Antares clone, that's not bad against the problems that you bring Antares into. Like, people are bringing Antares into Oliver. I think the Fire Robo is Antares-ish, and it might be a second option. And if you could bring basically 2 Antares into something problematic like Oliver, you might have a shot. And it doesn't need to have a massive win rate to be disruptive to the Oliver player. Triple Revenge Verd never had a massive win rate, but it was disruptive enough to a lot of the AoE players that they had to consider it. They had to deal with it. So I don't know. I like this buff, again, quite a bit. And I know it's none of those things. People are like, why is Oliver still in its current state? It's because they just made him relevant. He just became not trash. And imagine, a unit becoming amazing and then immediately slammed. That's not a good look. So we'll give him another balance patch to see if some of these counters work. And if not, I'm sure they'll take further action because, not the problem with Oliver is not only is he pretty effective, he's also not he's actively unfun to play against. I'm assuming he's fun to play. I haven't tried him, but things like Ragdoll and Nana are losing monsters to play against, but you feel like you have a decent chance at least. You have that feeling. Like, if you're slowly getting Ragdoll to death, you have windows to do stuff. It's just that they're taking their turns at such a faster rate that you're falling behind. Same with Nana. You have windows to deal with Nana, and there are things you can do to deal with Nana, whereas Oliver, you can feel the pain of never getting to do your stuff, and that's not very fun. So I'm hoping that this will be somewhat of a nerf to him, and it'll work. But, I don't know. We'll just have to see. We'll see how it works. There's a couple things they could do to make him even better, and he needs a job, so his kit is built to counter Oliver. It's just it was such a badly implemented kit that it didn't. So maybe this will bump him up to the next tier. We'll see. In those Oliver teams, they're fast, they take a lot of turns, so maybe he'll be disruptive. That's what I'm hoping for. Fire Robo. Keep an eye on him. We'll hope for the best. All right, Dryad. I mean, it gives us a heal anytime. That's fine. That's good, I guess. I don't know that it'll matter too much. The decreased beneficial effect duration is also good on Fire and Dark. I think Dark in guild content, that makes it nice against like Shield and stuff like that. And against things like Riley, where, everything is a 2-turn buff, that's pretty nice. So we'll see. The Undines, I don't think matters at all. I don't think anybody's going to use any of that for any reason, so no big deal. The sleep change is interesting. You can't glance when something's asleep. I like it because it's thematic. It makes sense from like a story standpoint. If it's asleep, why would you glance? You could literally walk right up to the monster and bop it on the head because it's asleep. So you should never glance. I like that a lot thematically. Gameplay-wise, it opens up a few things. It doesn't open up a ton. There are monsters that sleep. The succubuses don't wake from sleep, so now they're not going to glance. Makes elemental succubuses a little more deadly, Maybe the blue one will become a speed leader that's used more because it won't glance against stuff. I don't know. It's a nice little effect, and I don't think it breaks the game, but I think it opens up more gameplay and decision opportunities, so all about that. Undyne's getting changed. Cool. I don't know that matters. I don't know that Undynes matter at all. AI getting changed. Always good. The harmful effect AI, I think, is for raid, would be my guess. I don't know. The only thing is, does it decrease the magical archer's potential of doing tons of damage? Because I don't know that their skill 1 does more damage than their nukes do. So, I don't know. Something to keep in mind. Other than that, I think that's the whole balance patch. So, a lot of kind of underwhelming changes and a lot of small RTA tweaks. Not a lot going on for any other part of the game. I think it's mostly just small RTA tweaks. So, let me know what you guys think. And thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everybody.